Well, welcome everybody to episode 23 of Community Cloudcast. I'm your host, Eric Shupps, and I am joined this month by my special guest, Beatriz Oliveira from Portugal. Bem-vindo,
Oh,
Beatriz.
thank you. Obrigada, Eric. It's a pleasure being here, and it's great to listen to your Portuguese.
Well, I was talking with Beatriz before we started recording. I am slowly learning Portuguese. It's amazing how fast. So my kids are doing it too. They're learning a different language, but it's amazing how fast kids can pick up and retain this stuff, and how hard it is for us adults to remember all this stuff in our head. I didn't think it would
So
be this
very
hard.
true. Yeah.
For those of you who are joining us again, we took a bit of a break last month in June of 23 with graduations and conferences and everything that was going on. But we're back now on our regular schedule. So look for new episodes every third Thursday of the month on our YouTube and our Facebook channels. And as I mentioned, Beatriz is our guest this month, who has one of the rare designations of being both an MVP and an RD, which we probably ought to just give 10 seconds on that, Beatriz, because a lot of people, they kind of know what an MVP is, but they don't know what it means to be an RD. So what exactly is that?
Well, I can correct you slightly on that. I'm not an MVP since last year,
All right.
so I'm an RD, and a Microsoft Regional Director is a slightly different type of Microsoft related person. Typically, it's someone that, besides the technical knowledge on Microsoft technologies, it's a person that also is very deeply related to the business ecosystem, and that can bring more a thought leadership perspective, I guess, in a business perspective to Microsoft. And the ultimate goal, I believe, is it's the same. So Microsoft listens a lot to the MVP community for technical advice and opinions, and it also reaches out to the RDs concerning different perspectives, and mostly focused on on the business level of what Microsoft is providing.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Well, we want to thank our sponsors, of course. Aptigent, a new release in July for Power Tools on Power Platform, Nintex, Developer, and Enterprise editions with a few new customer requested actions. So you can go check that out at aptigent.com. And since we're speaking of cool awards and designations, Beatriz, you have just won an amazing award. That was, I guess this came out a few months back, but talk to us a little bit about the Power Women in Tech Award and what it means to you.
Yeah. Well, I think this is an incredible initiative by Microsoft. It runs on 11 countries in Western Europe. So it's not for all the countries in Europe. Nevertheless, the goal of this award is to recognize the work of women in the Microsoft ecosystem that are somehow doing two different things. One, innovating in the technical space. Two, inspiring, let's put it that way, other women to pursue technical careers, and eventually also to join this Microsoft ecosystem. To me, look, I mean, it's an incredible honor, because the award, as I said, it runs in 11 countries, and on each country, a woman was recognized. And I'm recognized for Portugal, so I couldn't be more honored for the recognition of being the first woman in Portugal to receive this award. I guess that what I have to say is, to me, it's it's the recognition of a long career so far. So I've been in this industry for about 25 years now, working with Microsoft since the beginning, and it's really an inspiration and added strength to continue in contributing every single day.
Well, it's a magnificent award, and as probably everybody listening knows that I've been a longtime proponent for women in this community. I have 3 daughters, so this is personal to me. And at one time or another, they've all helped run events with me when we used to do SharePoint Saturdays and whatnot, and come with me on speaking events. And we, in this community, we've been, I don't want to say lucky, but we've made a concerted effort in this community. We're a little bit spoiled because we do have a lot of very strong women leaders. We're always doing women panels. There's folks at Microsoft like Kathy Dew and Liz Sundin, Heather, that put a lot of effort into building up the women in tech community. And our events always have a lot of women speakers. There are a number of vendors and ISVs in our space that are run by women. So I think sometimes lose sight of the fact, because we have so many strong women in our community, that not every tech community is that way. And many of them, it's still very, very difficult for women to make an imprint in those communities.
I also have 2 daughters. My daughters are 20, 22, and well, it's not that we influenced them, but both of them are graduating in IT engineering. Nevertheless,
wow.
I'm closely now related to the university ecosystem here in Portugal, and I can see that even though, look, I wasn't in college 30 years ago, and 30 years later, the percentage of girls that apply and attend IT engineering, courses and graduations, it's not that bigger than what it was in my time. So I believe that currently will be around 20 to 25% still. And yes, this is still a very important topic, and we still have a lot of work to do to make sure that we attract more girls to this career.
Yeah, we need to do better. And hats off to Microsoft for making a concerted effort for at least the last 2 decades to encourage that. They've done a really good job. And there are so many great women over at Microsoft that are leading efforts like this. So again, congratulations to you on this. This is a phenomenal award. I was just tickled pink when I saw your name come up in this. So for a little background, Beatriz and I have known each other for a few years now, and I can always count on her when I have a women in tech panel or something I need to do. I can always call Beatriz and have her jump in and help out. So she's been a great champion of the community, and I think this is recognition well earned.
Thank you.
So let's jump in a bit into our primary topic here. So I wanted to leave this a bit open-ended. Sometimes in our monthly sessions here, we'll focus on a specific topic or something that a particular piece of technology that people are passionate about. But with Beatriz owning and running a successful business, I wanted to make a little broader topic here so we can talk about more of sort of the behind the scenes and strategic stuff here. Beatriz is the CEO of BindTuning out of Portugal. So many of you have probably used or seen their tools, and we'll talk about that specifically here in a few minutes. But let's back the truck up a little bit and start at the beginning. So how did you get here? From graduating, with an IT degree, moving into the Microsoft space, and then getting into this crazy world of SharePoint and Office 365. What did that journey look like?
Yeah, it's been a long journey now, and it's funny how you end up in a place that you never thought you would be at, right? Like life kind of guides you there. When I graduated, I started at Ernst & Young. And this, this championing for women in IT, it actually started with the first person that hired me. It was a very, very strong woman. I remember that I chose going to Ernst & Young because of her, because of that interview. It was so impactful in me. And she always gave me the strength to believe that I did belong in this IT world. She would always back me up when I was in meetings. She always made sure that I would have a voice at a table. And she was the one really giving me the strength to believe in my dreams and to believe that this was a space for me as well. And I started an entrepreneurship career 2-3 years later. Started my first company when I was around 25. I ended up selling that company in Portugal in the beginning of the 2000s. And I was so tired. I'm telling you, I was so tired of IT after selling that company. I was like exhausted. And I thought, no, I'm never doing this again, never doing IT again. And I had another company organizing events. I think very few people know about this, okay? And for a couple of years, I was organizing events with two other business partners. And then I was so like empty on the inside, like feeling, gosh, this is not for me, and I'm really missing IT. So at the time, and there's another thing that I really like, which is design. I decided to take another graduation in communication and design. So I went to college again, and after graduating, I started a development company, web design company. And in the beginning, the focus was, it had nothing to do with what BindTuning is now. So the goal of the company was really to focus on smaller companies, provide web design services. I had been working with SharePoint since 2001 from that first company. So we were probably one of the first to sell SharePoint in Portugal. And I was already doing design for SharePoint at the time. But then when starting this other company, it was with a different goal. And I was doing that for a few years. But then I had an accident in 2008. So I had a bike accident. It was quite serious. It really, so I broke my jaw, had a facial paralysis.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of a big thing. And I was in bed for some time. And during that first period, I couldn't be in front of a customer. So I decided to code a theme for .NET Nuke. I was working with .NET Nuke at the time. So I decided to fill in my time because I had nothing to do. And I put the theme to sale at a site called Snow Covered. And after about a week, my theme was one of the best sellers. And I was so happy, like, wow, like this is something, I'm going to do another. And I started coding another and I put it to sale. And a month later, I have two themes on the top of the Snow Covered ranking. So I decided that, well, there was really something there, and I decided to change my life. And I completely started focusing on theme development. I was doing theme development for Snow Covered for about a year. And I realized that at the time, look, we didn't have anything like CSS even 3, right? We were at a totally different time in web development. It was painful to develop for different companies, and doing themes for different colors and styles and everything was almost impossible. It was really a lot of repetitive work. Mm-hmm. And that's how the idea of having a theme configurator started. It was really to save me time. And it took me about a year to create the first configurator, and that's how BindTuning was born. Its first version was really focused on a couple frameworks. So I was trying to do templates for SharePoint and .NET Nuke. Then it evolved. I had the idea of creating something a bit more agnostic, so a themes generator for any technology. And when we were in 2012, BindTuning was released as like the first version of BindTuning. At the time, it was just a themes configurator for different .NET frameworks. And after a couple of years, I figured that SharePoint was really the technology that was more interesting, and that's how the SharePoint route started. So it was not something that I thought, that I decided. It just happened to me. And then later in 2015, during a project with Pepsi, we started developing web parts. We ended up deciding to incorporate web parts in our offering, and that's how we started, really started building an offering for creating SharePoint intranets. Then things evolved, right? things evolved. We started working with Microsoft Teams. We developed an accessibility tool for SharePoint, which is still probably one of the couple tools that you have out there for creating accessible experiences on top of Microsoft SharePoint. And then, like in 2018 or 2017, we started developing a provisioning engine, which is currently one of our main focuses. And this is kind of the story. And you see that, things are never planned. You just happen to enter some story in your life, and then you follow.
Yeah, I think SharePoint happened to a lot of us. I don't think we saw that truck coming when it hit us. So let's back up a second. So you had a little initial success with building these themes. You SharePoint kind of came along and you thought this would be cool. You started to build a company around that. But Portugal's a very small country, and there couldn't have been many resources there who knew about this SharePoint thing and how to work with it. How did you find resources and developers for your team?
Well, and maybe what I'm about to say is not true for the entire, time that I've been working at BindTuning and with BindTuning. But, well, I do know a lot of people in Portugal that have been working with SharePoint for a long time, because that comes back from my past, right? Remember that I told you that I started working with SharePoint in 2001, like really in the beginning. And I did know some people, but one of the things that I still do these days is a lot of training in-house. So we do a lot of internships where we bring people that are not necessarily totally proficient in SharePoint, and they grow with us. So it's a longer term investment. It takes time. It takes time to build that knowledge. It's not something that you can do probably in less than 3 years with a person. But it's an investment that, in our case, it has been paying off. So we are deeply committed in making this happen. So we're in July. Just since February, we have had 9 interns with us. So you can see that it's a continuous, we already call it an academy, because it's a continuous work that we do, bringing people that are not necessarily, an expert in an area, but we train them to become experts in that area. And that's also how we kind of try to fight the lack of resources that there's in the market right now. And I'm pretty sure that you also face the same problem, right? Like, this is not a Portuguese problem, a US problem. It's a worldwide issue, the lack of technical resources. So what we decided to do when we started this years ago was really build it from the ground up. And we are investing a lot in building capabilities in the team that works with us, and bringing in new people that we train, from scratch.
Well, that's an important differentiator, I think, because it's for those who are thinking more about the business picture of all this. It's very tempting to say, well, I'm just going to hire a bunch of contractors and, just get to release as fast as possible, right? We're just going to get there. But the problem, and certainly we've experienced this over the years, is that for the most part, people who are in a contract mindset like to move to different projects to different projects. They're not usually the same type of resource you would have long-term in a company that likes to stay and grow.
Mm-hmm.
And so you may get them for your first release of your product, but they may not be around for the second and third release, and you lose all of that institutional knowledge, right? That they just take with them, and you don't have a chance to grow that team. It's much harder to do what you've done and invest in the people from the ground up and train them. There must have been times where you wondered, am I really doing the right thing here?
Look, this strategy, it started from the beginning. The person that's with me for the longest started in 2011 as an intern. So you can see that it's like it's not just that you are investing in a person for 2-3 years, you are really building a relationship. So I have a very strong core of team members that started with us, most of them as interns, and really it goes beyond the fact that you are an employee at a company. You really are part of a family from that point. And I think that it's hard. It takes a lot of our time, to help someone grow and to build a new skill set on a person. But ultimately, I also think that it pays off, because we're not just building technical skills in the people that work with us. We are really building relationships, and we're building a place where we want people to feel safe. We want people to feel a part of. So we all call BindTuning a family. We never say it's a company. We all call it a family.
Well, that's kudos to you for that. That can be a hard road. As I know, we've tried and I would have to say not been that successful in doing some similar things. It takes a tremendous amount of effort and work, and that has to come from the top down. It can't be something that is just an idea that looks good on a slide.
Oh, yeah.
For here's next year's plan, right? It's got to be a commitment.
Oh, yeah. Just last week and this week, in our schedule, we have like 10 hours of watching our interns' presentations to make sure that when they are presenting, and these interns are still finishing their graduation in college, and at university, and we are deeply committed to making sure that they have like the best grades possible. So we invest a lot of our time.
Wow, that's great. So so BindTuning starts with themes and UX and UI and some web parts, and you move sort of into this provisioning piece. And I'm familiar with the tools. We have customers that use BindTuning tools and great products, but things have grown since then. And now you're moving into maybe some larger areas than you have in the past. So talk about where BindTuning is now and the challenges with customers that you're trying to solve.
Absolutely. Maybe let me start with what people know best about us, which is intranet. So we have been very recognized for being a provider of an intranet platform. I don't like to call it an intranet solution, because we are not an intranet in the box. What we sell is an intranet product, but that ultimately puts in the hands of our customers the capability to build an intranet at many different levels. So we're not just talking about the top level intranet. We're really talking about every single site that is created in the scope of an intranet. So to the level of the team site, our tools will be available to those users. It's a much more granular offering that what you normally see from other internet providers. So we try to think the experience and what people will need at that level. Like everyone should be able to use BindTuning products and should be able to author a new site in SharePoint. And that's our challenge every single day. So currently, what we see as one of the big changes, and I mean, you must be talking about this for several episodes right now, is Copilot, right? I don't know how many episodes you had on Copilot already, but I'm assuming that's some, right? No? None?
We've talked about it. We have sort of 3 different branches here that we do, and so we're teeing it up. Paul and I talked about generic AI, and then we're moving into that specific discussion as it gets closer. But yes, it is our number one most requested topic.
I am sure about that. So right now it's like top of mind for everyone. We have this expectation of what's coming out in December. And we feel that pressure as well as an ISV. So it's not just at the end user level, the expectation of waiting for a product that will ultimately change your experience with SharePoint and your experience with the rest of the Microsoft 365 stack, but what it means for ISVs currently. So for companies that are providing products for this, huge ecosystem that is Microsoft 365, this ultimately poses, well, a tremendous new challenge. And, not only we need to think how we will integrate with Copilot. So we are thinking already how we can integrate with the Copilot API. That is probably one amazing opportunity. But there are a lot of things that Copilot will do, or that is expected to do, maybe not in the first version, but incoming versions, that obviously will replace a lot of what ISVs are doing currently. So it's not just BindTuning, it's not just the companies that are providing products for modern work, but we are talking about many different capabilities that Copilot will, for certain, if not fully replace, it will do a lot, right? So you'll be able already to do a lot with Copilot, and that puts pressure on ISVs, on us as well. So our challenge right now is to rethink the product, rethink the experience. We already had in our roadmap a lot of AI-based capabilities that we will be launching. The goal right now is to rethink them at the light of Copilot. We know that just the fact that you can talk to Copilot and ask for it to create a site, it's an amazing capability, right? And it's not just the structure that it will create, it will automatically generate content for you. So that is incredible. But we know that and look, SharePoint is not a tool made for the individual user, right? It's a tool made for enterprises, for companies. So if on one end, that's an incredible capability, and it puts a lot of power in the hands of users, it also brings some additional challenges to the companies. And that's what we are also seeing. So what we believe that will happen is that we will have more governance challenges, that it will be harder to make sure and ensure that your users are aligned with, well, not only to the company's brand, but also to the company's best practices, to the company's regulations, to the way that each company works. So all that brings new challenges to the table, and that's where we believe that what we have currently with Automate 365, our provisioning engine, that's where we believe that Automate 365 will actually make a difference and will have a lot to bring and to help companies, deal with this added challenge. So we see a huge need for governance in the near future. If that is already a challenge as it is right now, we believe that it's going to increase, and we see a lot of room for companies to rethink the way they do things, and to rethink how they can incorporate better ways to have standardized approaches to provisioning, and standardized approaches to their internal processes.
Yeah, this is a huge potential, both a problem and an opportunity in the enterprise.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that people understand the scope of what's happening here. So let's break this apart a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Copilot is now providing an interface, a natural language interface for end users to do things that it probably took a site administrator to do before, where they can simply request, I'd like to have a new site that does this, this, and this. Okay. But it also does lots of other things. And Microsoft has been very straightforward in saying, at least to the partner community, because we're an ISV just like you are, that they are going to open up those capabilities to work with their partners, so that a customer who wants, for example, in our particular scenario, if a customer said, make me a flow that has an action that will generate a map image of my customer's address, right? Well, it may go out and use our plugin because it knows we have an action for that and we're Copilot ready. It may choose to bring our plugin and put that in. But the customer didn't explicitly make that decision to invoke a partner solution, right? And the person asking for it has no concept of what guardrails have been in place by the organization, what the not only the corporate policy, but the technical components involved in that. So previously, governance was all about how do we implement corporate policy inside of this environment. Now, governance becomes this huge thing around what pieces of the solution actually get invoked and how do we manage all of those components to deliver what the user is asking for, but in a way that is compliant with what the organization is trying to do. That is a exponentially more difficult problem.
Absolutely. The way that, and we have been working on our provisioning engine for almost 5 years now. And the way that we see, and we focus a lot of provisioning, let me be very clear, okay? The provisioning part of the problem is where we are focusing our biggest efforts, because not only we believe that what you get out of the box by Microsoft with very simple templates, but also what you get from a lot of the vendors that are doing provisioning right now is absolutely not enough when you think about enterprise grade provisioning. When we're thinking about provisioning at a larger scale for larger entities and corporations, the challenges go way beyond the simple idea of copy and pasting and creating a template and kind of cloning that template over and over. So it goes way beyond that. We have been investing a lot in making sure that the templates that we provide are very rich in terms of the capabilities related, for example, to structure and content. This is like the basic, right? And this sounds simple, but it's not simple. It kind of goes to the detail, for example, of being able to provisioning the details inside a OneNote file, or, for example, when we're talking about the education sector, how do you actually also provision the assignments that are within Teams? So it goes to a deep level. When we talk about provisioning, we extended this concept beyond SharePoint and Teams. So currently BindTuning is supporting 6 platforms. So we are supporting SharePoint, Teams, Planner, Project, Power BI, and Power Apps. So think about the capabilities of standardizing processes for all these Microsoft 365 tools. We want to make sure that we are supporting companies at a very, very large scale. And this is true for so many different things. If you think, for example, about project management scenarios, you have companies that manage thousands of projects a year. So how do you actually are able to provision at huge scale levels? We try to provide our customers the ability to integrate with different systems. So we are not thinking about only provisioning capabilities on a closed universe as it is the Microsoft ecosystem, but companies, and this is also a problem that companies will have to rethink with Copilot, which is, even though you are working with Microsoft, you don't only work with Microsoft, right? Like you may have Salesforce, or you have Jira, or you have Zendesk, or you have so many different platforms in your company. How can you make sure that your processes actually incorporate the entire flow of a process from the beginning to the end? And whatever you are doing has to talk to those other applications, before and after. And when we are thinking about provisioning, that is also true. So we have many customers. For example, when you think about requesting a SharePoint site, or requesting a team in Teams that are using ServiceNow, or that are using Jira for those requests, or that are using Zendesk, and companies don't want to change their processes, right? So they want to still have those requests come in through ServiceNow, for example. So we need to talk to those platforms and make sure that Microsoft, what happens within Microsoft workspaces has to be integrated with those other platforms. And the information that comes from those tools has to be embedded in what you're trying to provision. And that is also something that we are strongly embedding in the Automate 365 capabilities, namely, for example, the capabilities to map information. Like, let's say that I'm starting and I want to create my internal processes to create a new site every time I start working with a supplier. And my suppliers are managed, for example, in Salesforce. So when I enter information in Salesforce, I want a new site that is created with the data that I have in Salesforce. So there's mapping capabilities that have to be in place as well. So there's so many different things to be done in this world. And now with the added challenge of Copilot and opportunity, and let's face it, opportunity, because I think that drives ISVs to rethink their products as well, right? So we also need this kind of this urge for change and this urge for innovation. That's what makes us tick. That's what makes us have new ideas, invent new ways of doing things, and put new capabilities in the hands of customers.
Well, and it can be a significant challenge. So let's pick up on the Salesforce thread there, because that's near and dear to us, because we're in both ecosystems, Salesforce and Microsoft. And although if you sketch it out on paper, you can say, oh, well, we're just going to have an integration from Salesforce and it's going to go into Microsoft. Those two ecosystems are so different. And the technology base is so completely different. To get into the Salesforce ecosystem, you can't just go be an ISV in Salesforce, right? It takes a long time, and you have to learn to speak their language, and you have to get into the App Exchange, and you have to go through their process, and it's a challenge. Not just doing it technically, right? Because you can hire people who understand, I can write Apex code. It's understanding how to be in that ecosystem and deliver on that platform, because it's completely different from Microsoft. Even tools that do the same thing, Dynamics and Salesforce do things totally different, right? And so we say we need to connect those ecosystems, and we do, but doing so can be really difficult, especially for end users that don't care about the technical complexities, right? They just want it to, I'll steal an old phrase, right? They just want it to work. Right. Well, making it work is really hard.
Yeah. But that's the ISV challenge, right? If you're not able to hide the complexities behind an easy to use interface, then you're not really doing your job. So that's really the job of a good company. And if you want to be one important player in the ecosystem, then you do have to hide those complexities. And we know that it's hard, but the harder it is, it means that you are really doing a good job when you are creating products that hide those complexities. In our case, yes, it's been challenging. I think that we implemented quite a great technology here with the integrations that we are providing. We have native integrations with several tools now, and we are still implementing more. But I think it's one of the critical things that have to be done, and not only in provisioning, as is our case, but anything that we want to provide as solutions for companies. Because we have to respect the way a company works, right? If the customer has decided to build an architecture in terms of the frameworks they're working with that, for example, works with Salesforce, then we have to respect the customer's way of working, right? And we have to work with that. And in our case, it's exactly the same. So we try to be very mindful that internal processes are complex, that they incorporate many different tools, many different applications. And our job as BindTuning is to make it as simple as possible, as smooth as possible. Integrations have to be, almost transparent to the end user. And if a process currently is done in a certain way, and we want to put a little big piece of provisioning in the middle of that process, we cannot change the rest of the process for the customer. So the rest has to be made to remain unchanged, and we have to just plug in that provisioning part without touching the rest of the customer's infrastructure.
There's no question that we are smack dab in the middle of a multi-cloud world. It's going to continue to be that way. We're going to continue to see customers going after these best-of-breed cloud solutions, usually on larger stacks. If we're talking about enterprise customers, of course, SMBs use all sorts of tools all over the shop. But from an enterprise perspective, there's sort of handfuls of these that you have to be aware of. And it's not enough, I don't think, can you be a Microsoft ISV? Yes. Can you be a Salesforce ISV? Yes. But I don't think it's enough to say, well, we're not going to worry about those other platforms and we don't think about those. I think we're entering that stage where, as you so rightly described, to meet the customer demand, we can't respond with, well, you have to do it in Microsoft, because then we'll lose the customer. Somebody is going to come in and say, we'll make that work for you. And that's incumbent upon us as vendors to be able to fill that gap and to do it well, because it's not going to change, right? They are going to continue to have these multi-cloud scenarios.
Absolutely. And the investment that companies make in technology is tremendous, right? Like, you cannot reinvent the wheel every year, or every time you start working with a new vendor for a certain capability. So you cannot force companies to rethink their investments, because they have been investing, millions, many times billions in technology for a long, long time. So it's up to the ISVs, and it's our responsibility to be mindful of the complexity of the customer's infrastructure. That for sure. So that's what we're trying to do right now. So we're still focusing a lot on making sure that we provide, top experiences on top of SharePoint and Microsoft Teams, but also complement that with very, very strong provisioning capabilities that think the customer's environment as a whole, that are able to talk different languages, so to speak, right? Make sure that we are respectful of any workflows that are in place, so that our pieces and our capabilities are almost plug and play. So that's like the ultimate frontier, and the ultimate goal is to make it like really, really simple. And well, hopefully AI will help on this. We're super focused right now on the coming months. There will be a lot of AI things that we'll be releasing, a whole new experience. So we are, I don't want to open the game too much, otherwise it will not be a surprise, and competitive advantage for us as well, right? Right. So that's our responsibility as vendors, is to make it to make it in a way that when it's out, it's amazing. And yeah, we're focusing on AI strongly right now.
So let's talk about the other end of that, which is making customers aware that you have a solution, right? The adage of if you build it, they will come does not apply in the technology space. There's too much noise, right? People don't know that you have a solution because there's so many gazillions of things out there. How do you get that message to customers so that they know they have a problem? They're looking for you, but how the heck do they find you?
God, that's a challenge, right? I mean, I'm sure it's a challenge for you as well, because because it is for us, certainly. And it's top of mind for us. Exactly the not only what you're talking about, which is educating our customer, right? Like, how do we educate our existing customers, but also how do we attract new leads? How do we bring in more references and customers that never heard about BindTuning, but as we are developing new capabilities, yes, we want to bring in a new audience. So look, we're doing so much on that end, a lot to attract new leads. I mean, Google has to be everyone's best friend, and whomever is not thinking deeply and heavily in terms of SEO is not doing a good job. So we've been doing that for years. A lot of content generation, and thought leadership. So there has to be tremendous effort in positioning the right type of content and explaining your audience that that you have a solution for different types of problems. And you cannot talk about product. I mean, you really have to talk to the audience for what they're looking for, because customers are not looking for a product. Customers are looking for a solution. So when you search, you don't search for the name of a product, right? You search for the problem that you're having. And that's how you need to position a business, really. It's to talk to the users out there, to the problems that they're having, that they're trying to solve. And then eventually, when they recognize that you know a lot about that particular topic, they will start testing your product, getting on a trial and so on. We at BindTuning, well, we are in the Microsoft ecosystem as you are. In the past, we have invested a lot in Microsoft events. We're a bit sad, honestly, that we haven't had the big events by Microsoft, which used to be very important for us in terms of lead generation. Some of the events are picking up again, so that's great. Let's see how it works this year for Microsoft Ignite. It would be great if we would have again a similar model to an in-person Ignite event.
You've mentioned Copilot a few times, and we've talked about this whole AI piece, which obviously is a sea change in the industry, which funnily enough has been boiling under the covers for a long time, as we both know, but just came to the forefront, I think, with the whole Chat GPT thing. But Microsoft is making a huge investment here. This is obviously going to have a major impact. You're thinking about it for your products. Mm-hmm. We're thinking about it for ours. Where do you see the next sort of 2 to 3 years going when this rolls out later this year and makes a huge splash on the scene? How's it going to affect collaboration in Office 365 and Teams and what we're doing in the space?
When we go back and think about the experience that we started having as soon as Apple launched the first phones with this visual interface, and all of a sudden that kind of became the norm, like you don't expect things to work any differently. And even when you were thinking about the web experience, we always try to make the parallel to the phone experience, because that's what people use like every single day, right? You get so used to doing certain actions, certain movements, that when you go to a web experience, and an intranet is no more than a web experience, you kind of expect the same. So now that users are getting so used to talk to ChatGPT, and the experience with Copilot will be similar, my assumption is that that will become the new norm. So that will really become the user's expectation. Like, you don't expect to select things or search in a certain way, even going to searching on Google or Bing or whatever. Like, I almost stopped searching a lot of things, because all of a sudden it's more effective for me to ask than to search. And ultimately, I believe that that's the impact that we will see in the near future, for sure, which is a very, very different way of the end user to expect software and expect technology to behave on a certain way, and to experience technology in that way. So I think that first, that's the most significant impact that we will see, which is the transition to the natural language. Like, users will want to ask for things rather than trying to do or doing multiple steps of something, whatever it is. What comes next? I have zero idea, because I wish I had a crystal ball, right? I have friends working intensively in the AI industry, and this change was so unexpected, so fast. Like what they say is that coming to this level of artificial intelligence was not expected to happen so quickly. So the industry was waiting for something in about 5 years or so, not now. So the next frontier, which is like the last level of artificial intelligence that everyone would expect to happen in 30 years, maybe something like that, 20, 30 years. Eventually, it's going to happen soon, right? Like in 5 years or so, because you're talking about technologies that ultimately also learn with themselves. I don't really know what to expect in 3 years. What I'm expecting in the very short term is this shift in the user's mindset, in the customer's mindset, the expectation that things work in a certain way. And if you are not aligned with the way of thinking of users, then maybe you will miss exactly the point of everything and all the opportunities. So it's going to be very fast paced, very challenging, and you have to do AI.
The scene I can't get out of my head is in Star Trek 4 when Scotty sits down at the computer, right? And he says, "Computer," right? And it doesn't respond. And the guy points at the mouse. So instead of grabbing the mouse and typing, Scotty picks up the mouse and says, "Computer," right? And
exactly.
Because and then when he gets it, he goes, "Oh, I have to do this the old way," right? And go back to that. And you almost get the sense that that's where we're starting to get there, where people are going to interact natural language, which we've been trying to sort of, if you think back to using Dragon Dictate in the late 90s, right? That's what they were trying to do. And now we're there and it's happening. And as you say, none of us were prepared for it. I don't think we're prepared for what's happening next. I think it's people have said it's the cloud computing, right? Being able to do massive computing at a massive scale, right? That has enabled all this stuff to hang on. But for those of us as ISVs, my roadmap only goes out 12 months. I don't even know how I can look beyond that.
Yeah, we can't. I don't think we can, right? So currently it's first this challenge of picking up the pace and making sure that we are in line with this massive change that's happening. I feel it, and you were here when internet started, right? I was too, and that was like a crazy change in our lives. And I think that this is crazier. So this is way more impactful, way more significant. It will ultimately change a lot of, yes, I'm not thinking of threats to jobs or anything like that, because it will just change. So I'm pretty sure that a lot of the jobs that exist right now will certainly disappear, and we will have tons of other jobs appearing. And the way that people interact with technology will ultimately suffer tremendous impact, tremendous change. And for us vendors, we just have to keep up and accelerate, because it will be very, very fast paced.
And isn't that always the challenge? Staying, not just keeping up, but trying to get a foot ahead of the game.
Yep.
Right? That's always our challenge. We're working in the cloud, and certainly as business owners, we have to keep an eye on the here and now, but we also have to keep trying to look a little bit ahead and see where we're going.
Yeah, and it's always the challenge when you have you want to have the eye on the ball on the future, but you can't lose your existing customers, your customer base, and the way that many companies are still doing things, right? So it's this juggling of balls and this balance in between. How do you keep what sustains your business today and what will sustain your business tomorrow? So yeah, it's a challenging game, but ultimately I think it's very exciting. Look, I am really, really excited about the things that are coming. I'm very happy for being able to have the opportunity to live this. So I think it's a great time.
Well, you have to learn to thrive on change, or you won't make it in this business. That's that's for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to thank you, Beatriz. I can't thank you enough, as a matter of fact, for jumping on and doing this. I know it's getting a little bit late in the day there in Portugal. Now you're up in the north in Porto. I haven't been up there yet. My plan is definitely to get there. And I usually am down in Lisbon. I'm missing my ginja and my fado, and I need to get back. And whatever that dish is that you all do with the duck and the rice and the chorizo. Oh, I love that thing.
Oh, yeah, but you have to come to Porto. We have francesinha, and we have port wine, and we have so many other things. So you're very welcome.
I got to get over there again. Just a quick reminder, second Thursday of the month is our Winging It episode with myself and Rob Bogue, where we talk mostly about SharePoint, but also AI and cloud and other issues all come up. And then on the fourth Thursday is where we do some more of the forward-looking stuff. Paul talks more in the Salesforce type of space, but we just did, and our last episode was on artificial intelligence. And we'll continue along that theme. That's sort of our forward-looking, upcoming, emerging technologies segment. So that's on the fourth Thursday of the month. Thank our sponsors once again, Aptigent, the Bifocal podcast with Jason and Paul, who weren't able to be here this month, but hopefully they will next month. And then last thing, mentioned BindTuning. Folks can, of course, go to BindTuning.com, but where else can they learn more, Beatriz, about what BindTuning is up to?
Well, definitely the LinkedIn. So if you search BindTuning on LinkedIn, that will be probably one of the best places to go, because we always promote our events, all the content that we are producing. Everything is there. You can also follow us on Twitter. So those will be the best places to find us.
Fantastic. We'll make sure to put links in the show notes for all of those so you can get to them easily. Don't forget that all of these episodes are on Spotify, and go out to Apple Podcasts and Amazon Podcasts and anywhere that you consume your podcast from. There'll be a podcast version of the show that releases at the same time, so you can download those and listen to them at your leisure. But be sure to check the show notes here for links to BindTuning and our sponsors and everything else that we've mentioned here. That's all the time we have. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Beatriz, again, for doing this. Really appreciate it. And we will see all of you next month.
Thank you. Bye.